I'm ErinThrelfall. We're here today at the United Nations International School in Manhattan, New York. We are an international school that services children from 130 nationalities. We have children from all different backgrounds and languages spoken. 60% of our student population comes from the United Nations, and the others are international families and business families here in New York. I am the Service Learning Coordinator at the United Nations International School. I also work on the Learning Leadership team, helping to build and develop our curriculum that is inquiry-based and interdisciplinary in its approach. I have been in education for over 20 years, coming from a background in the arts. I worked with international schools across the globe and specialize in interdisciplinary learning, teaching for social justice, and inquiry-based learning. I also really dive into looking at social-emotional learning, looking at the whole child and how we can support them to become global citizens. We develop our learners to think in an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach through all of the experiences that they have. We have units of inquiry that might be centered around a central idea that's usually very concept-driven and concept-focused. And they'll look at that concept and central idea through multiple disciplinary lenses. So we'll look at where math could tap in with data collection and analysis, or looking at systems and math systems. We'll look at our literary connections, where students are reading and writing in a particular genre that would support understanding a central idea. We'll look at it through a science lens, where science concepts can tap in. And we look at it through our humanities and social studies concepts, where we also start to bring in geography, we bring in UN topics. When our students are examining a problem, we will ask, how many different ways of knowing are there? So if I'm looking at it through thinking like a scientist, what might I bring in? If I'm thinking like a mathematician, what knowing and questioning might I bring in? If I'm looking at it through the lens of a historian or a humanitarian, what lens might I need to examine through? And so when they're starting to look at things through these conceptual lenses and through the different lenses of a professional, they start to look at multiple ways that they can examine an issue. And then we could say, well, how can we express this? How might we creatively solve this problem? How might we think like an artist and think outside of the box to look at, we have all of these facts in front of us, what are other ways of examining this issue? Our students are prepared for the reality of the workforce in a lot of different ways. So in a younger age group, our students will look at things in a very wide, conceptually driven way, where we're getting them to understand big ideas and how to analyze and be problem solvers. As they get older and go through our learning, as the understanding of a topic becomes more complex, they do narrow into more of a disciplinary approach. So in our younger years, in our middle school years, we have a multitude of learning standards that we attach to. We are using Common Ground standards for our whole approach. And then we look at Common Core for our language arts. We look at NGSS standards for our science and engineering. And then it funnels up into the IB program, where our students do graduate from the IB diploma program. They do have a more narrow disciplinary approach within the IB that does require, though, broader, complex thinking. Our students are also well prepared for what the workforce will look like, because we constantly bring in professionals from different environments to talk to them. From the time that they're preschooler all the way up through high school, they're working with people who work with NGOs, who are scientists, who are artists, so they're constantly exposed to the professional world. When I think about what our current learners are going to need to solve problems for tomorrow, we know that our problems right now are even more complex than maybe we were prepared to solve. So in conclusion of thinking about solving problems, being prepared for the workforce, being prepared for the tomorrow that's really unpredictable, the one thing we can predict is we need to prepare our learners to be flexible thinkers, flexible problem solvers who know how to grapple with problems where maybe the answer isn't there, maybe the answer relies in history, maybe the answer relies in looking at something from a completely different perspective. So we know that the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary approach is the approach we need to be preparing our students to use in the future workforce. So one special thing that we have here at UNIS is the Peace Table. The Peace Table is used in our junior school classrooms for students to help learn how to resolve conflict. It's based off of the UN and the Security Council, where different countries can come in to help get mentoring and counseling to solve problems. So when a student has a conflict with another child, they can invite them to the Peace Table. One of the big rules at the Peace Table is you cannot turn down a peace talk. So when you've been invited, you have to accept. And we train the students to understand how to make I statements, how to state the problem through their perspective, and then the other student has to mirror back to make sure that they're understanding one another what the problem is that's being brought to the table. And then we support them in developing conflict resolution skills, understanding an effective apology, understanding a win-win scenario, learning how to negotiate a solution, and at the end of the day, also understanding they have their personal boundaries. So while they may accept someone's offering of an apology, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready yet to be great friends with that person. So we really try to help them develop an authentic sense of conflict resolution and setting their own boundaries and communicating their issues. The Peace Table has taken on a life of its own. We have parents coming back and reporting that they're being invited to peace talks at home. My own son is here at the school, so I know in first grade I was invited to many peace talks. And the students really develop a sense of integrity and being principled and knowing how to speak up when they see that something is wrong. So they also, as they get older, we have our peace group that are taught how to be peacekeepers in a classroom, and they learn how to coach and mentor others through conflict resolution. So that's something that we're really excited about here, that we're teaching our children from a very young age to learn about perspective taking, setting their own personal boundaries, and then that extends into our middle school. In our advisory program, we've custom designed a program that helps our students understand about self-care, setting boundaries, knowing how to talk to others effectively, communicating, listening, and we've even extended bringing in the work of Brene Brown about boundary setting and learning about the anatomy of trust. And so all the way through, we're working to develop skills in our students about being peacekeepers, about perspective taking, and setting their own safe boundaries.